All right. Now this one's pretty interesting. I've been wanting to watch it for a while. Yeah. This guy does really great music theory analysis videos and the like. He talks about music, what makes it work, how to compose a piece, and everything. And this one is about Lavender Town from Pokemon. If you ever listened to the Lavender Town theme, you probably know, right? You're like, why is it so scary? I think he's gonna explain why this Pokemon theme makes you feel uneasy. You ready for this? We ready? Alright, let's give it a go. Three, two, one, go.
Of music, 30 days, 30 breakdowns, and 30 chances for you to learn about your favorite music. And today we are talking about perhaps the creepiest, weirdest theme from maybe any Pokemon game ever. It's from the original Red and Blue, or Red
Oh
and
my
Green in
god.
Japan.
That commercial made me age like 20 years. Oh my god. I remember being there during the height of the Pokemon craze. I was like 7 or 8 at the time, maybe even 9. It's like I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago. Oh, this commercial just takes me right back.
And fair warning, it's really bizarre and it might hurt your ears, and it's part of the reason it has a very weird lore behind it, but let's just listen to it first.
Iconic.
Ah,
Do you believe in ghosts? Ooh! So there are believers. Yeah.
oof. Then it starts over and goes on and on and on
For
ad
eternity.
nauseum. So this is Lavender Town. If you're familiar with the game, this is supposedly a haunted level. It's where you find the
Found.
ghost Pokemon, and it's very evident that the intention was to make this a creepy theme. And boy, did they succeed at that! Because when we look at what's going on here musically,
It sounds like Animal Crossing to
you're
you?
kind of left going, well, hang
Pikachu's
on. Not only am I thoroughly
so tone
disturbed, but
deaf.
I also don't really have any clue what's happening. As was sort of required by the early Game Boy hardware, this entire piece is essentially just like 4 parts, and we can see them all written out here. We have a sort of, I don't even, would you call this an ostinato? I'm not really sure what the proper terminology for this is, but this consistent theme that goes on through the entire thing. It switches up octaves from here and there, but for the most part, we're playing 4 notes, and it is C, G, B. Not really a whole lot of harmonic information in there, is
Yeah.
there?
Pretty simple,
But it
isn't it?
is weird. Now,
Bit
one thing
creepy
I think is
too.
really interesting about this, as we're going to see as we break this down, is the harmonic information, except for a couple of small parts. For all intents and purposes, it's indicating something that could and should be beautiful, but it's not.
Yeah.
So, what's actually happening here? Well, we have that theme that comes in. Now, those notes together definitely,
Yeah.
yes, that's absolutely
They sound
a
like a mess
dissonant
almost.
sound.
They're
It's
dissonant.
not necessarily a pleasant sound, but still, there's not really anything here that tells us much about what's going on harmonically. But then the melody comes in.
Pretty depressed, huh?
Ah,
Yeah. Uncomfortable too.
okay, a lot of interesting things going on there, but I want you to take notice of that first part where the melody comes in. We have 2 notes,
Yeah.
G and E. Every piece of harmonic information here is telling us that we are playing, get this, a major 7 sharp 11 chord. We have a C, we have G, we have B, we have E, and we have F sharp. Now, when we play a C major 7 sharp 11 chord, most of the time,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful sound, right?
Yeah, Lavender Town's a favorite for many. It's a really
It's
great
an
theme.
absolutely gorgeous sound. So why does this sound so unsettling and so bizarre? The way this marches on
Yeah, because it's unending. That
has some
helps.
really interesting qualities to it. I mean, the first thing we hear is a perfect fifth,
Yeah.
but then these two notes are interesting to me because we have an F sharp. Now, its relationship to C,
Yeah.
of course, is a tritone, and
Yeah,
that is
how loops in
inherently
game.
dissonant. It's inherently a little bit unsettling, but
Yeah, basically,
what's
what he's doing is telling us how the pieces put together. In a town that's meant to make you feel a bit unsettling, he's telling you how to make it happen, how these chords work. Which is pretty interesting so far, isn't it?
interesting to me about this is we have essentially 1 5,
Yeah.
but then if we look
Yeah.
at B and F sharp, that creates a 1 5 relationship as well, but it's a half step down.
Yeah.
Here's another way to look at those 4 notes. Look at that. If we look at those 4 notes in this way,
Yeah, it sounds like a
well,
mess.
now they have a little bit of a different characteristic to them. Now we have a half step relationship, which is about as dissonant as you could possibly get, and we have a half step relationship, which is about as dissonant as you can possibly get, and they're separated
And I got double dissonance there. Very
by a
dissonant.
tritone. There's a tritone in there. That's really interesting.
And tritones, too.
So it just goes to show you that even though the notes themselves, theoretically, should sound beautiful, they don't because of the way they're related to each other and the way they're used in this sort of marching context. Okay, that's first and foremost the thing that stuck out to me. But then we move on and we get
Yeah, but basically what he's saying is, you know, you got two pieces of dissonant notes, right? And you have them marching along. That helps build a very uneasy feeling. You know, picture it like it's trying to capture the feeling of walking through the afterlife, right? A ghost wandering with no place to go. If you tried to put the ghost footsteps into music form, it sounds a bit like that in Lavender Town. They're pretty, but they're also dissonant. You know, it's how the mind hears the music, which I think is pretty fascinating.
all the while that ostinato is going on, or whatever you want to call it, and then we get, and this is where everything goes out the window.
Yeah.
So we land on C sharp here is sort of our main melody. Okay, but then against that, the sort of counter melody we get goes, and that brings up so many bizarre points here.
It does.
First of all, that happens. There's another half step.
Yeah.
Okay, but that C sharp doesn't belong anywhere in here. It doesn't fit at all. It just sounds completely out of place. Well, that brings up the next interesting question, which is what key are we even in? I was doing some research on this and I
Yeah,
found a
the
Reddit
key is
post from
important
a
too.
user
It's
named
very
Soaring
important.
Symphony. And in it, the idea is presented that maybe this whole thing is actually in E minor. And I think that that's a real.
Let's see. I figured out why the Lavender Town theme sounds so unnerving. I don't know if he's gonna read it out loud or not, but some music game theory. Let's see if he'll read it out first before I read it out for you
Really
guys.
interesting observation, because when you look at all of the notes, particularly when we include the C sharp, if you think about this whole thing in E minor, it makes so much more sense,
E
right?
minor. Yeah, let's take a look at what this guy said, because I think it was pretty fascinating too. Yeah, so he figured out why Lavender Town theme is so unnerving. Yeah, the gist through is that the song is written in the key of E minor, which already sounds kind of dark and gloomy. In minor, usually for minor keys, you get songs that are sad, fearful, a bit dissonant, unnerving. But these four notes repeated over and over again in the high register are what really take it to a whole nother level. These notes are C, G, B, and F sharp repeated ad nauseum. Yeah, in theory, you'll be in fifth, third, sixth, third, fifth, and second. Because of the way the pattern is formatted, it gets interpreted as having the same function as a backing track, which would usually be the bass. Yeah, if you listen to the Undertale soundtrack, his theme from Undertale is also another example. However, because the repeated four note pattern doesn't actually include the tonic note, and because it jumps from C to G instead of going from high C down to G, it tricks your brain into thinking the entire song is in C major rather than the true key. And that makes sense. That's why you get that dissonance. Because your brain the way music theory works, your brain is expecting a certain kind of note when you play a chord. So when something stands out, that's where the dissonance comes in. Interesting, right? Yeah, now that creates a major dissonance because otherwise wouldn't exist. The melody includes notes that don't belong in C major, from F sharp and C sharp. In the C major key, F sharp creates a tritone, which is very dissonant. You know, people just scaring themselves. Well, look, you're just an alien, Pikachu's, okay? Normal people hear Lavender Town and know that it's telling a story about a ghost wandering internally through the afterlife. Yeah, the four notes repeat sound like nails on a chalkboard, and that's why so many kids thought it was creepy. Because your brain is confused. It's expecting a different note there. So when you don't get that note, your brain's like, whoa, something's not right here. That's why Lavender Town is such a genius theme. Let's continue.
Minor, it makes so much more sense, right? Because that C sharp just
Yeah.
creates an E minor 6 chord, but to use a C natural is totally acceptable in an E minor setting. That would be more like an E natural minor setting, kind of, right? It makes complete sense, and it might be a little bit difficult to hear it that way, particularly because this
Yeah, it keeps repeating in the background, so
is
it's
so
hard to
heavily
notice.
rooted on the C, and we get this repeating C a little bit lower as well, and so many of the lines seem to land on C. So I really like this idea that it might be an E minor. At the end of the day, do I actually think it is? For me personally, I don't. Because I'm looking at all of the clues that are telling me C major, but you can reimagine this thing in E minor, and it does sound really good. And so I love this
Yeah.
breakdown. I love this, all the concepts presented here. And it's a really smart way of thinking about it. And I think that at the end
Yeah,
of the
that's how the
day,
track was
it's
built.
just
Interesting,
meant to
right?
be super creepy and disorienting. And somebody in the comments of this Reddit post mentioned the Stranger Things theme. This is another really cool example of something kind of similar. It's a little more consonant, but check this out. Oh, right there. Even
Oh yeah.
this is a good example of this C E minor connection because
Yeah, it creates that same
the
uneasy
line
feeling.
here that everybody knows from Stranger Things is a C major 7 chord, but the theme is very solidly in E minor.
I see, because it creates that dissonance. Oh hey, Aleko! Hey, good to see
But
you.
it goes back and forth, right? So we get this.
Yeah, hey, we're currently watching a video about Lavender Town from Pokemon. This guy's breaking down what makes the theme so iconically spooky and scary. Vibes and synth. Well, it's not scary so much as a bit uneasy. The idea is to make you feel a bit unnerved, right? Yeah. Whenever you're talking, dissonant chords and minor themes and stuff, you're not really thinking scary most of the time. You're also thinking unnerving, you know, or something is just out of place, but you can't place what. Yeah, not always scary.
And that's the beauty of like this sound palette of using C and then E, G, and B, right?
Yeah.
Because we have an E minor chord in here, we have a C major chord in here, we have a C major 7 chord in here.
Hey,
It
Aleko.
all works.
We're doing pretty great today. The stream went pretty well today. Just did some GeoGuessr.
And it just goes back and forth.
Yeah, I think
That whole
the
like
repetition
80s
helps
kind
make
of
it feel
synthwave
uneasy
vibe,
too.
super cool.
Yeah, even if it's synth, it's still pretty unnerving. A sharp noise plays. Yeah, that's because your brain is expecting a different noise, right? So when you hear a different sound, yeah, a nerve feeling. Hey, Aleko. Yeah, we're actually on the last video for today, but we're gonna wrap it up here. And you don't like it? No, it's okay, Pikachu's. Don't worry. The video's almost done. I think it's really fascinating to learn about all this.
Yeah. Ooh, there's the F sharp. Look it, it's the exact same sound palette. We're getting that sound with that F sharp in there.
Like that scary noise on Slaptan videos. Is it an F sharp sound, perhaps?
It works great, you know, and this one is just absolutely defined in E minor, whereas I think Lavender Town is a lot more subjective. But it does give you an idea of like that sound palette using C, E, G, B, and right F sharp. You can create so many different ambiguous sounds here. And then, you know, on top of that, of course, like we said, we have that sort of detuning of all the notes in the Lavender Town theme,
Yeah, the
and
ambiguity
it
helps
sells the whole
too.
thing as being seriously unsettling and bizarre. There is a whole lore behind this. And you can Google Lavender Town Syndrome if you want to find out more about it. It's basically from the from the era of creepypastas, where people made up these like incredibly in-depth lores and stories about things that didn't
Yeah.
happen, but like it is kind of a cool story to read and just imagine, because it does sound so creepy, and this idea that such a creepy sound could have this weird effect on people, making people sick or go crazy or worse. Yeah, Google Lavender Town Syndrome, and yeah, go down that rabbit hole for a minute, because it
Yeah, I'll tell you about that. It's such a silly creepypasta story about how apparently there was like a whole small town in Japan that got really sick because they got brainwashed by the Lavender Town theme or something, and it caused them all to go crazy. Honestly, so many of those creepypastas are just so dumb because they're so bizarre and unrealistic. Yeah. But Lavender Town is a good place, yeah. We're not saying that it's bad. We're just explaining why the theme is a bit unsettling. Because, the afterlife can be a bit unsettling. Not know, the unknown. What happens to us when we leave this world. Lavender Town theme captures that in. Yeah, not everyone gets music theory. Not even I fully understand it. It's really hard to get into. But that's why videos like these are really great. They help you learn about why the music works so well. You know, it paints how the Lavender Town theme paints a story of the quiet, unsettling nature of what happens after life. Yeah, me too, Pikachu's, but it's pretty awesome. It is.
is definitely very creepy and perfectly fitting for such a bizarre, unsettling theme. Now, Pokemon remade this theme a number of times for different games, and they all sound super different. And you can tell for a moment they might have thought like, okay, let's clean this up a little bit, or let's make this a little more obvious. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, you can hear a lot of these ideas that are just pulling the mystery and the unsettling nature just completely out of it. Like, listen to this.
Oh yeah, this is unsettling though. Yeah, same here, Aleko. I love seeing what
Now,
professionals think. And isn't it amazing that he can just tell what notes are playing?
yeah, so they've turned it into this thing that's now C major, D minor, E minor.
Don't hate on gold and silver Pikachu's. Don't hate on gold and silver.
I
Yeah.
mean, you want to talk about a total pivot from the original theme. That is just, oh
It
yeah, it
is,
takes all the
yeah, it's really
mystery out of it,
different.
doesn't it? And clearly this time around,
And the
maybe they
remake.
listened to the fans or something, because this is just the original. This maintains that same mystery with slightly, obviously modernized sound hardware, right? So you can use a lot more varying sound qualities and all kinds of different things. But this is,
Yeah, it kind of sounds
yeah,
like
this
ghosts
is
floating
just it.
by, doesn't it? And then hard gold, still
See,
silver.
this is that other updated one that sort of takes all the mystery out of it. Now it's just that regular.
Yeah, I think in a way that gold and silver feels so different. He's right that the mystery element is a bit gone. It's not as unsettling anymore. I think it's because the mystery, in a way, is solved, right? In Pokemon Red and Blue, you don't know that the ghost is Marowak yet. You just know that a ghost is there, and that some little baby Cubone is just in mourning because he doesn't know what happened. So the mystery is there. It's unsettling. You don't know how to handle that. You're just 10 years old, right? But then in gold and silver, when the trouble is over, now it's just a quiet send off. There's no mystery. Still a bit unsettling. It's just a send off now. It's not that bad. Yeah, 8-bit is pretty good. I love 8-bit tunes. I grew up on them. They're awesome.
Okay, totally different vibe. There we go. Ooh, now we get an orchestral version.
Oh yeah.
And we stick with the real crunchy dissonance there.
Crunchy dissonance.
Now that time you can hear in the orchestra.
Yeah, and that remake.
We get a very prominent E minor chord, but
It sounded
we
messy,
still have
Pikachu.
the
He
line
spent the
here,
entire video explaining why it's messy. Were you paying attention at all?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell, and I think maybe that's kind of the point. Now, this is very cool, the orchestral version, but I think something about the original is just like absolutely insanely creepy.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, Pikachu's, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the harshness of the sounds being used first and foremost, and then it's the slight detuning of all the different notes involved. What a bizarre theme. And of course, this is the work of
It really
Junichi
is.
Matsuda. And in writing the music for the game, of course, he was limited to 4 sound channels. And to get this much harmonic, I would say content, but I think the word I want to use is more like ambiguity out of just 4 sound channels.
Yeah, they had to work
I mean,
with so much
incredible.
less,
I'm
but they made so
consistently
much
blown
more
away
back
by
then, didn't
what
they?
composers like Junichi Masuda were able to accomplish with the extreme hardware limitations they were faced with at the time. But I want to know from you, what do you think about this theme? First of all, is it in C major? Is it in E minor? And also, is this the creepiest Pokemon theme that exists? Because if there's one creepier than this, I want to know about it. So let me know in those comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in to the month of music, and we will see you tomorrow.
Brilliant video. Really brilliant. Really like it. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to take for granted, right? We have so many tools today to make so many things. Back then, they didn't have that much, and yet they made so many iconic melodies. Amazing. Even all the way back in Ruby and Sapphire, even back then it was a bit limited too. But everyone loves the Hoenn soundtrack for all the trumpets and everything, right? It takes true genius to put together a track that captures that unsettling feeling. Yeah, I'd say the N64 was also pretty limited too, in a way. Especially in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, where, you have an instrument to play, and, the guy only had like 5 or 6 notes to work with, one for each button, and yet he made so many amazing songs out of those. That's how music theory comes into play. You're telling a story with the music. It's full of soul. I agree, Aleko. That's really right. Yeah, that was a fascinating video. I actually really love this.